If you have been unhappy with your relationships up until now, and you can't help but think that everyone else doesn't love you as hard as them, and you find yourself repeating the same types of habits in relationships, you get bored, you cheat, or they get bored and cheat on you, you fall out of love, you struggle to communicate your feelings, or you are either all in the relationship or completely out at different moments. Today's video is all about identifying your unique love style. Now, the brilliant thing about identifying your love style that you, or maybe what your current partner or previous partner has, are to identify how you can make small corrections so that you can be your most healthy self. So that means you get to have awesome anxiety-free relationships and learn how to reparent yourself. Bingo! If you want to know more, then stay tuned. Hey, my name is Danny De Silves, and it is my duty to help you find a way to reparent yourself that doesn't suck, feel weird, or takes years to actually do. And today's video is going to really help you, because did you know that how you act today in your current relationships has been predetermined by how you were interacted with when you were younger, or how you interacted with the world around you? So depending on your upbringing, no matter if you went into the adoption system, if you had a guardian, if you had a mentally unhealthy parent, children are huge sponges and they absorb what is around them, and then they make sense of it, interpret it, and that becomes their world forevermore. So if you have grown up in a situation where you have always been surrounded by, let's say for example, narcissistic, greedy people, when you eventually do grow up, you are only ever going to assume that the people in the world are exactly like that. But most importantly, what you need to understand is how we choose to love others and how we love ourselves actually came from our upbringing. And it can be broken down into 5 specific love styles. But before I go any further, I cannot take credit for this. I first heard of the 5 love styles by the amazing attachment theorists Milan and K. which I can tell you, I identify with probably 2, maybe 3 on this list, and you will learn that throughout the rest of this video. And I want you to know that if you are feeling pretty uncomfortable with today's video, it does get better. The more information that you push into your brain space, the better you become, and you can grow into a healthy, stable person and rid of all the trauma from your past. So, let's get started. The first love style is the avoider. It pretty much does what it says on the tin. The biggest feeling if you are the avoider is your upbringing was just so emotionally cold. You may have had a nice fancy home, but those that gave you that upbringing, whether that's parents, adoptive parents, guardians, they never gave you emotional warmth. Your parents maybe valued money and status, and you were always told to wipe away those tears and to be a big boy or a girl. Therefore, you grew up looking after you, figuring out that big bad world all on your own. And you were so preoccupied with being so self-independent and self-reliant and striving for things to prove your worth, you actually cut off the need for feelings and your needs. So you actually find people with their needs a huge weakness. You are the type of person that gets over things pretty quickly. You have no recollection of telling your parents how you felt, or if you did, it was shot down quickly. You rarely open up to people, and you are more likely to open up to a romantic partner, but then you're like, this is too much, and you hold them at a distance. Too much romance for you can be very overwhelming, and you may find you pull away from people a lot. You don't want people to want you, and you prefer to just kind of get on with life. You want to keep things simple, and your love space, well, that's just you and your hobby. In a romantic sense, you do like touching, freaky in the sheets type thing, but cuddling for too long, oh my god, you do not like this. This is not going to apply to all avoiders, but most, and that is you struggle to empathize with other people, because the needs of others is going to make you eye roll. You have a passion or a side hustle that becomes your everything, and you will find you are working on this as often as you can. It's your pride, your joy, pretty much your baby. And your happiness is defined on your performance or creation or solution to a problem. Romantic people in the past, or maybe your current partner, tells you that you're a little bit distant and you're very, very emotionally cold. They want to get to know you, but you struggle to actually open up. If you are an avoider, you may find yourself constantly saying the popular catchphrase, I just need some alone time. Love style numero dos, the pleaser. You are the type of person that grew up with a parent or a guardian that was overly protective. They made you feel that you walked on eggshells constantly, and they criticized you for the smallest thing. And they could either have been very caring and down to earth or red hot with passionate anger. And if this is you, you are going to have many memories of actually comforting your own parents, manipulating them to stay happy so nothing bad happened, which means you suppress your own needs and your words to keep them in a state of happiness so you could relax. Now, what does this look like? Manipulation, we all do it. It all sounds really bad, but babies manipulate their parents. They cry and they get their nappy changed, they get a bottle, they get hugs. We all manipulate on a daily basis. It's just not always negative. You could have been the child that thought, I know, if I make my parents a cup of tea constantly and always do the housework, they will never have a reason to be angry at me. And maybe you identify with that. You really overstepped your own boundaries to keep them happy. You never received any good mother messages. And we are going to cover mother messages in another video. But some examples could be never hearing the sentences, I appreciate you or I understand you. And you find that you overcompensate in all of your relationships. Perfectionism at work, overlooking red flags with your partner, and easily forgiving friends or anyone's wrongdoings. Now you are going to be crazy, and I'm this person, so I put my hand up, crazy empathetic. You know the mood of everyone in a room, and you are continuously monitoring your romantic partners for fear of them changing how they feel about you. And yeah, the sound of that is exhausting, and living it, so exhausting. You are gonna struggle to maintain boundaries, and eventually you build up so much rage because you are pushing your feelings down all the time. You begin to resent people. You will just lash out, break down, and leave relationships, also known as the INFJ door slam. And at school, teachers may have told you that you have amazingly great potential and you will go on to sail the seven seas and have some amazing great things to do in life, but you didn't really know how to internalize that. Like, thanks, Mrs. Miles, what can I do with that information so I can prevent an existential crisis by the time I'm in college? And have you realized I have some crazy parenting going on? Obviously, I have no idea what this thing of life is. You ruminate over past arguments, chronically avoid rejection, maybe even running back to unfaithful partners, which is what I have done many times, or even bad clients if you are freelancing because you struggle to let things go. As a kid, you did more than you were asked and expected of a child. For example, cleaning the house or maybe even cooking. You never raised your voice to your parents as well. You probably even stopped inviting your friends over because you wanted to maintain a nice adult relationship with your parents, and eventually you will distance yourself from your family because of the pain. People may laugh at you, there will be jokes about you, and rather than have any confrontation and say, you know what, that actually hurts my feelings, you're kind of like, that's really funny, but crying on the inside. You work your butt off to keep your bosses and clients happy, meaning you never really clock off or take breaks. So if you are a freelancer, yeah, you need some breaks because I know that you will not. You are going to grow up, or you already have grown up, not really knowing who you are. You struggle to talk about your hobbies, your likes and dislikes because your time is taken up by looking after your parents or other people. But passive aggression, it's like a Gemini, it's your evil twin. You cannot directly confront an issue. Let's say, for example, you are very annoyed at your partner, but you can't talk about it because you don't want to face that confrontation, but you kind of hope that they read your mind and understand your needs through that passive aggressiveness. If this is you, your common catchphrase is, I'm sorry, I won't let you down. Moving on to love style 3, the victim. You naturally make yourself small, like cramp yourself up and shove those shoulders down and put your hands away in public because you feel uncomfortable a lot of the time. Eye contact, oh baby, it's too risky, and you may experience back pain and shoulder cramps from all of the tension that you carry. You naturally make yourself a lot smaller, like physically small, so that people just kind of look over you and don't really give you any attention. Your upbringing contained a strong, potentially egotistical person, and if there's someone that has already come to mind, then this is your love style. This person was extremely chaotic with everything they did, and they made you feel so uncomfortable that your requests were just ridiculously unreasonable for some reason. Let's talk about these requests. A child asking for something like help on homework, to talk about something stressful. If you were always shut down and you felt that your requests were unreasonable, you're going to grow up never asking for what you need. You could have experienced some form of abuse, mental, physical, or even sexual. These people that you grew up with in the family, or even one person, could have been very violent and angry. Not to mention though, just because you were not physically assaulted does not mean the abuse is any less. You could grow up developing a lot of personality disorders, for example, borderline or ADHD, and you have this ability to clock out when things get very stressful, which is part of borderline, and that's called dissociation, and that's a complete another video. But inside your head, you have a magical world that you can just kind of snap yourself into every now and then, and that keeps you feeling calm. So in stressful moments, you're like, boop, I'm gone, I'm in my safe place. You've probably dealt with anxiety and depression for as long as you can remember, and you've always struggled with low self-esteem and feeling that you can't actually achieve good things in life because, well, you don't know that good things actually exist because you've never been shown that life is pretty good. If this is you, you are going to have no idea to even begin the first step of living a life that's truly all about you. You could have an addictive personality where you get so absorbed into gaming or even substance abuse because everything that takes you out of your head makes you feel calm and very safe. As a child, sadly, you felt completely powerless. People never respected you. Friends, parents, romantic relationships. And people tend to walk over you a lot because you lack any self-respect. And that's only because you've never learned how to actually say to someone, like, dude, stop walking on my feet, what are you doing? Instead, you will just easily agree with other people and just kind of go with the flow and the motions of what everyone else is doing. You may find yourself in situationships and relationships with people where you feel so ashamed of having needs that you just remain quiet. You don't really tell them about your interests because, well, you don't realize you even have any. And in romantic relationships specifically, you could feel very uneasy when there is no drama. You are used to stress, your brain has adapted around it. And if you don't experience stress in your adult life, you may feel you go off the rails quite a lot. You will have moments as a child where you were so quiet and so self-contained, but then you just lash out on other people and you feel like, whoa, where did this anger come from? It could be a specific younger sibling that got the backlash or someone from school where this anger just seems to appear from nowhere. If this is you, your catchphrase is, I'm okay, I'm just really tired. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is the controller, which is literally as it sounds. You always choose and maintain extreme self-control so that no one can get into that gooey center of yours, like a Cadbury's cream egg. Once upon a time, people have taken extreme advantage of you, and you would have done anything to stop that from happening again. So much, in fact, you took it into adult life. And that was for you to protect yourself so that you didn't feel humiliated. Now, there is this barricade, this barrier you put on, and if someone triggers you, oh, well, hell kind of breaks loose. You are one tough cookie. You had no one there for you fighting your corner when you were young, and your needs were just completely swept under the carpet. You were so young to understand that you were being mistreated that instead, like I just mentioned, you put on this battle armor just to get through every single day. And in today's relationships, you are gonna find you struggle to remove those outer boundaries, those outer walls, because you always have this rock hard shell. And when relationships become too intimate and you find you are starting to really like someone, you break yourself away and you refuse to fall deep for someone. This is because you are always protecting yourself, because you feel that you know yourself best and you are the only person that gets you and the person that you can trust. So you prefer to get through life getting things done and dusted on your own because you know that's the best way to solve problems. So yeah, when someone tries to come in and love you, you're like, whoa, what is this love situation? Shoe off, please, I'm not used to it. Your life has two extremes. You either feel that you have control of everything, or if you don't, life is going to control you and you hate it. So therefore you kind of fight constantly to avoid those feelings of humiliation and that helpless feeling which you experienced many, many years ago when you were a wee little child. You never talk about how you actually feel. Your needs don't really get expressed because you feel no one's going to understand it. Sometimes people could find you pretty rude and intimidating because people don't know how to take you, because you were very much, there's the problem, there's a solution, go ahead and do it. People see you as very self-sufficient. You know what you're doing in a day and you can plan things amazingly well. Now your catchphrase is going to be, ugh, eye roll, just let me do it. Okay, ready for another love attachment style, the Vacillator. We would describe you as the hopeless romantic. You are someone that yearns for that deep connection, even if you find yourself in a long-term relationship. Deep down, you have these thoughts that there's someone else out there who's much better for you, someone that just gets you, that just knows you, will understand you, and you are just waiting for them to kind of ride on a noble white steed to rescue you. You feel that you are consistently let down by people, and that the way that you love people is different to how they love you, and that your love is just so much better. You have never ever been made top priority. Since you were a kid, you were never valued for things. At school, you were never anyone's first priority, and also in friendships and relationships. You never found yourself being someone's first choice, and you probably felt very abandoned growing up. You may have lived in a beautiful house where you had everything. There was money there was status with the parents, you had a roof over your head, you had food, you had expensive clothing, but you didn't receive the recognition and the admiration from your parents or your guardians, that you grew up feeling that you were a little bit alienated. You were very lonely. And because of this, these feelings of wanting to be seen and heard just disappeared. You may end up distancing yourself from your family, or maybe you've already done that because the feelings of having to talk to them bring out so much anger because you resent them for how they treated you, or even friends as well, that you don't actually care for the people in your past. You, my friend, and there's nothing to be ashamed of because this is me too, you are a love addict. You go through many long-term relationships trying to soothe yourself and getting those feelings that you missed out on as a child. And naturally, as every romantic relationship does, it loses its butterflies. You grow out of that honeymoon phase, and eventually partners get bored, and that's when they have to work on it. But you become so addicted to the new relationships because of that nice feeling that you constantly find yourself, well, dating new people. You are a serial dater. You do not spend enough time being single when you get out of a failed relationship, and you were never actually friends with your partners beforehand. You just jump straight into a new relationship and seem to be like, YOLO, I'll figure it out along the way. You may even question yourself sometimes. For example, why am I picking a fight with my partner? Someone could have told you that dating you feels like they are walking on eggshells because of the emotional stress that you unleash. If this is you, your catchphrase is going to be, no one loves me the way that I love them. Okay, all of the sadness out of the way, let's talk about what it would be like if you had ideal parents, a secure upbringing. How would you act as if you had lived through an ideal childhood? If you are a secure person, that means you give love and you receive love, and you don't feel the need to hold back. You don't punish, you are not passive aggressive, and you don't manipulate someone to feel loved or to get love. You can talk about your emotions without feeling ashamed of them. And you can openly talk about what you are struggling with, meaning you don't hesitate at all when you need help for something, no matter how big or how small. You have healthy boundaries, and self-care is so easy for you. You are not the type of person to ruthlessly check over an email before you hit send and then read it once more in your sent box just to make sure the tone was right. Instead, you're the type of person that can apologize when you do something wrong, which isn't easy to do. You never grew up feeling ashamed of your needs, and you had a strong parent or a strong guardian that you learned these skills from. Now, because of this strong parent, new beginnings were never scary. You can delay immediate gratification. For example, those of us, and I'm holding up my hand too, that grew up in a less than ideal parenting style can become so addicted to feeling good. good. We either feel scared, angry, anxious, or alone constantly when we grew up, that when we discovered what happiness was, we were like, oh, this is amazing. So some of us have discovered substance abuse, alcohol, video game addiction, money, food. We overuse to feel good. So it's more likely we get ourselves into debt because we think, YOLO, I would just buy this new games console or a new dishwasher or a new dining room table because it's going to make me feel hella good. So you might be thinking right now, but Danny, I relate to all of the styles in this video, and if you do, that's okay. Honestly, I do relate to 3 of them, but what is important is where you go from here. The path to reparenting yourself and learning skills isn't easy, and annoyingly, you don't know what it is that you need to learn until you are faced with a situation, and then you're like, a healthy person wouldn't have done that. Being aware of your own upbringing and how you respond today in your relationships is the first step in being the 2.0 best version of yourself. Comment below what style you relate with and give an example so that other people can relate as well. Have an awesome day and stay tuned for some amazing videos helping you to reparent yourself. See you in the next video. Bye bye.